Welcome to the Pine Hosting Schedules page. This is probably one of my favorite pages out of our whole panel, as it's the most powerful and allows you to create automations for your server to do multiple different tasks. To begin with, you can see three buttons: Import, View Templates, and Create Schedules. The Import button allows you to import directly from a file. This is great if you want to share schedules across your own servers, or if you want to share schedules with friends. We'll show you how to export a schedule in a few minutes. View Templates shows us the template page with all the schedules, which we'll go to later. And then Create Schedule is where you can create the schedule from scratch. When creating a schedule from scratch, you've got quite a bit of information to deal with, so we'll break it down as slow as possible. To begin with, you've got to give your schedule a name. This is just for you, so we're going to call this Test Schedule. At the top right here, you'll notice the UTC time. This is the current time in the UTC time zone. All of our schedules run off of the UTC time, so you'll see in a second as we set up the cron, we're going to make sure that it's running in UTC time. You'll see down here, this is a human readable identifier for the schedule. This is where cron formatting comes in. For the people that know cron formatting, this won't be too complicated, but I know it can be daunting for first-time server owners. Essentially, when creating a schedule, you can specify the minute, hour, day of the month, or day of the week. This is done in cron formatting, which if you click on Show Cheat Sheet, gives you a nice, easy to read cheat sheet of how everything works. So as we make an adjustment, for example, if we set this to 6, you can see it puts it in easy to read terms every 5 minutes between 6 a.m. and 6:59 a.m. But what we're going to do is we're going to create a basic schedule that runs every day. So to do that, we want it to run at 6 a.m. So there we go. Minute 0, hour at 6 a.m. and it'll run. Asterisk means every day of the month, and every day of the week. Obviously, one thing to remember is that it is 6 a.m. UTC time. Right now it's 8:51 UTC time, so this is going to run later on in the morning. Next up, we have only when server is online. This is if you want it to run when the server is online. Generally, a lot of these tasks are going to be useless if your server is offline. You obviously can't run a command to your server if it's not online. But sometimes you might want to turn this off if you want to take a file backup, for example. Moving on down, we have conditions. This is something that's very unique to Pine Hosting. We have a list of conditions that we might be adding to in future, but to start with, we have the option for day of week. You can select any day of the week. This slightly differs from the day of the week used up at the top here. Obviously this you can limit it to a Tuesday, but the reason we made this was mainly for Rust wipes, but I'm sure a lot of games can utilize it too. If you wanted to create a schedule that runs only on the first Thursday of the month, so for example in this case we would create day of the month, 1st to the 7th, so at 6 a.m. between the day 1 and the 7th of the month, it'll run. Then if we have a condition here and we set this to Thursday, that will ensure that it only runs on the Thursday. Obviously you can only have one Thursday in a 7-day week, so this would make sure that it skips it for all the other days. The other ones we have is a file check. This checks if a file exists or doesn't exist. You can specify the directory here and the file. This is great if you wanted to create some system to check for a certain file and delete it if it exists. Directory check is the same as file check, except it's checking for a folder. Obviously you got the same options, exists and doesn't exist. Player count, this checks your server player count at the time the schedule runs. So you've got an option equals to, greater than, or less than, and then the player count. This is a perfect way to add a condition. For example, if you don't want to do a server restart, if your players are greater than 10, then you can set that and it'll just skip the schedule until the next time it runs. And then the final option is schedule enabled. This you can turn off if you don't want it to run and you want to run it manually only, but generally leave that on. So we'll leave all these settings like that and we will create a schedule. Now moving on to the exciting things, creating tasks. From here, you can select new task, and then you're given a list of actions. I'll try and skim through these actions as quickly as possible, as obviously they might change slightly depending on the game. Like we mentioned before, this is a Rust server, so we have some Rust actions here. Send command simply sends a command to your server through the console. Send power action allows you to start, restart, stop, or terminate your server. Creating a backup allows you to create a server backup that gets stored in the backup section. We have the option to back up your server databases as well, if you toggle that on, and set files that you want to ignore. Setting the startup variable, this is a very powerful feature as well that a lot of server owners will use. From here, it lets you edit server startup variables. So in this case, we've got a Rust server, so if we wanted to change our world seed, we can make it so our schedule will change our world seed to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, for example. Obviously, this will change depending on the game you have. If you wanted to make your server name change, you could do that. If you're running an unturned server and you wanted to change your unturned server name, you could just do unturned new name, for example, and then the next time the schedule runs, it will update your startup value. Moving on downwards, we've got delete files. This lets you paste in the path to all the files you'd like to delete. This is great for doing an automated wipe. You can delete on all different games. You could delete your unturned map files, or you could delete your Minecraft world file, for example. Next up, we have Discord webhooks. This is great if you want to do server wipes or announcements to Discord. All you have to do is create a Discord webhook, paste the URL here, and then paste the Discord message. Then when the schedule runs, it will send a Discord webhook. You'll see a lot of our templates for wipes and backups have this, so you could have a log of all your backups, for example, in your Discord server. And then finally, this is specific to Rust, so we won't go over that much, but we have the Rust wipe section here. This won't show, obviously, if you don't have a Rust server. What we'll do in this case is just do a simple test command. You'll see the options you have at the top right here: time offset in seconds, continue on failure, and then create task. So we'll create this, and I'll explain what the other two things mean on the next one. Now we'll create another one that runs test 2, and we'll add a 15-second time offset. Essentially what this does is once the first command runs, it'll wait 15 seconds before running the next command. You can also enable continue on failure if you wanted to continue past this task. If it fails, that's good for like backups that might fail for some reason, or a server command that might not run, but we'll leave it off for now. From here, you can now run this task. If you click run now, this will manually run it. At the top, you'll see when the next run date is. This next run and last run date is specified in your actual local time, so this will be in my time zone. It'll run at 8 AM. Obviously, we spoke about this before, the UTC time. We set the schedule in UTC time, but this tells you when it'll run in your time. I'm 2 hours ahead of UTC, so it makes sense that it's going to run at 8 AM my time. So to run now, we can just click run now. This will begin the processing of the task, and then once the whole task is completed, obviously we'd have to wait 15 seconds for this to run. We can then click on refresh, and you'll see that it was completed. As you can see, it was last run at 10:59 PM, which is the time now. And that's all there really is to know about creating schedules manually. We can obviously delete them from here. You can also shuffle the tasks by drag and dropping them. You can delete the tasks individually, or you can click to edit them. As I spoke about earlier, we have the ability to export tasks. If you click export, this will download the file to your PC. You can save this file and then use it to import later if you ever want to share it with friends or put it on another server. We'll head back to the schedules page now to go over a couple other things and show you our template system. Our template system will be slightly different depending on the game you're running. Obviously, we've got a Rust server, so it's going to show some Rust specific information. From here, you can click on configure. This will bring up a pop-up where you can create the schedule. It'll give you a description of the schedule. If it has a YouTube video or a knowledge base linked, you'll see a learn more button here. If you click this, it'll take you directly to the video speaking about that specific schedule. Obviously, our Rust wipe one is quite complex, so we have a dedicated video for that. You can give it your own name, but we'll just leave it default, and we'll click create schedule. As you can see, this is a very advanced schedule that kind of goes over a lot of the features we offered. This is a fully ready to go template, so you can simply edit it to your liking and then start. If you want to learn more about the specific schedule, it'll be linked down below in the video. And then the final thing to show you, which is also in our templates page, is all of our variable examples. This might change as we add more variables in future, but if we just create this schedule, the schedule is designed not to actually be run. This is just to show you all the different variables we have. So whenever you're running a server command or want to update a startup value, for example, we have a list of variables that you can use. To specify a variable, you use these little squiggly brackets. As you can see, we've got a variable day, day in text, month in text, month, year, and then weekday as a number. We also have Rust seed, which we use in our Rust wipe one that generates a random Rust seed. If we were to run the schedule, this is the output it would give us in console. As you can see, it's posting the date, the 19th, day in text. This is the actual day of the week, so this would be great if you wanted to put in your server name the day that your server wiped, so Tuesday. Month in text, it's November. Month as a number, 11th. Year, 2024, and then weekday as a number. Obviously, Tuesday is the second day of the week. And that's all there is with our schedules page. I understand that that is a lot of information to take in, and this video might be quite long, but feel free to skip ahead to all the timestamps if you'd like to check it out. As usual, if you get stuck with anything, feel free to open a ticket with our support team and we'd be happy to assist. We understand how complex schedules can be, but they definitely are a great tool to use as a server owner.